The committee has come to a clear scientific conclusion. This is a safe and effective vaccine. Its benefits in protecting people from COVID-19 with the associated risks of death and hospitalisation outweigh the possible risks. The committee also concluded that the vaccine is not associated with an increase in the overall risk of thromboembolic events or blood clots. About 7 million people have now been vaccinated in the EU with the AstraZeneca vaccine, and 11 million have been vaccinated in the UK, and there is increasing use of this vaccine in other countries. But I want to reiterate that our scientific position is that this vaccine is a safe and effective option to protect citizens against COVID-19. It demonstrated that at least 60% efficacy in clinical trials in preventing coronavirus disease, and in fact the real-world evidence suggests that the effectiveness could be even higher than that. We have mobilised European experts in the field of thrombosis and blood disorders to investigate, and we work closely with other health authorities across the world, including with the UK's MHRA. When you vaccinate millions of people, it's inevitable that rare or serious incidences or illnesses will occur in the time immediately following vaccination. Our role in the EU regulatory system is to rapidly detect these incidents and investigate whether there may be a link to the vaccine or whether they are the result of illnesses which occur by chance close in time to the vaccination.
The PRAC has come to the following conclusions. This vaccine is safe and effective in preventing COVID-19, and its benefits continue to be far greater than its risks. PRAC has found no evidence of a quality or a batch issue. The committee has assessed and discussed preclinical and clinical trial data, published literature and adverse events related to the blood clots that have occurred during the vaccination campaign, reported by vaccinees and healthcare professionals. We have seen some very rare case reports describing specific unusual events of a combination of thrombosis and thrombocytopenia and bleeding. In a few cases, tiny clots developed in multiple blood vessels in the first 7 to 14 days after vaccination, a condition called disseminated intravascular coagulation. Also, in a few cases, we saw clots developing in blood vessels draining blood from the brain, and this condition is known as a cerebral venous sinus thrombosis. These conditions are linked to low levels of blood platelets, also known as thrombocytopenia, and the evidence we have is at the moment not sufficient to conclude with certainty whether these adverse events are indeed caused by the vaccine or not. So that this information should be provided to healthcare professionals and to the public. EMA and national health authorities will ensure that healthcare professionals and the general public are made aware of this information and made aware of the signs and symptoms of concern so that timely action can be taken to mitigate these risks. We have been discussing quite some hypotheses to see what would be an explanation for these cases. And as we know, COVID itself is an important risk factor for thrombosis and also a post-COVID syndrome. We noted that often people are being hospitalized with thrombosis in the aorta. So it might be that that might have played a role, but for the moment we still feel that we see sufficient information to include a warning in the product information. And we will further investigate with a scientific advisory group.
This is an important safety review, and we need to make sure that safety review continues and that we continue to be driven by science and have a fast but also robust evaluation. Further evaluation will include additional expert advice, will include using epidemiological studies, so studies using healthcare data from the real world, and we can use that to look at a population level as to what the levels of thrombosis are. And we can also look at laboratory tests to see whether there's anything in particular about these patients that are getting the unusual blood clots that might suggest or help us to understand the mechanism for the clots occurring. Thank you.
The DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation, is a disease or a syndrome where there is thrombosis, so coagulation, whilst at the same time the blood platelets, the thrombocytes, are depleted, and therefore you get thrombosis in combination with bleeding. So it's that's a little bit of a further explanation of this specific disease. And it's at the moment it's rather difficult to know exactly the reasons why there is a difference in the cases. We're working from spontaneously reported cases, and what we know for sure is that the populations that have been vaccinated are very different between the different member states and between the UK. That might be a possible explanation, but at the moment we are not sure how to explain that. I don't know if Dr. Peter Arlett would like to come in.
Dr. Arlett?
If I was to speculate, I think the most likely explanation is different populations being vaccinated. We know the AstraZeneca vaccine in the UK was given predominantly to older patients, and we know compared to the totality of European member states, therefore if blood clotting disorders are more common in younger women, for example, then it would suggest that you would get more cases in Europe than you would in the UK.
And we know that thrombosis and thromboembolisms are very common conditions. And I have some figures here that approximately 100,000 people develop blood clots every month in the European Union for different reasons, for all different reasons. So obviously we also have reports coming in for all the vaccines on the different, on these blood clots and this thrombosis and thromboembolisms. But for now, the reporting, as is with the case with the AstraZeneca vaccine for the general occurrence of thrombosis and thromboembolisms, is below what we would expect based on the background occurrence of these clotting diseases. So at the moment, I cannot give you a very detailed breakdown, but we have looked into this from a thrombosis, thromboembolic perspective. And at the moment, there is no indication that the observed cases would be higher than the expected cases. So, like we highlighted before, these cases occur always, and they also will occur in temporal relationship with the vaccination.
Just to continue, just to say that we have now 4 authorised vaccines in Europe. And we are looking at the thromboembolic rates, reporting rates for all 4 of them. The 4th one, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, is not yet on the market, so we're asking for specific investigations on this before, because we can't just tell from the reports coming in. We're also in close contact with regulators across the world who have their own experience with different vaccines, so that one, they can alert us as to any heightened problem. So far we haven't seen that, but with increasing awareness we may see also an increase in reports for all vaccines.
And we have looked into that. We know that in general for the occurrence, because we shouldn't forget that the CVST occurs also at a certain level in the background anyway. And there, one of the risk factors that is highlighted for the disease or the syndrome as such is indeed oral contraceptives. So that's also one of the things that we will be further investigating in the near future.
So I think it's very important to highlight that when a country makes a decision about vaccination, they do that with the full knowledge of their population, of what's available and what the particular risk factors to their population are. What our job is to look at the vaccine and to see whether it's safe, quality and effective, and whether the benefit outweighs the risk. And that's what we have done. We cannot comment on the individual decisions in member states.
Many thanks, Mrs. Cook. So now we have Gretchen Vogel from the Science magazine. Gretchen, go ahead, please.
Hello. 2 questions, if I may. Just a quick question about the numbers you mentioned from Norway. I had understood that there were 4 cases there that you had mentioned.
Can you speak up a bit? We don't really understand you.
Yes.
Can you speak up a bit?
Sorry.
Much better, I think. Yeah, thank you.
That better?
Much better.
Okay, all right. First, a brief question about Norway. You had mentioned 2 cases of the stroke. I understood that there were 4 cases that they were looking at.
Sorry, you're still breaking up.
Ben,
Perhaps you need to give us your question in the chat. We are going then to read it. Because you're breaking off, we can't really understand it.
I can do that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
I will do that.
Thank you. So I give the floor now to Kate Powling from Good Morning Britain. Kate, please.
Hi. Can I ask, how concerned are you about national regulators making unilateral decisions that have caused a lot of worry among the 11 million who have been vaccinated in the UK?
Mrs. Cook, can you take that question, please? Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important that the national authorities have the right scientific basis on which to make their decisions, but they make their decisions in the context of the knowledge of their population on what vaccines they have available, on what specific risks they have identified, and what their vaccination campaigns have been. Our job is to ensure that we provide the right evidence on the vaccine so that countries can make an informed decision.
We have discussed at the level of the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee all the cases, also all the Norwegian cases that were available to us up until yesterday. And we have, after careful review, categorized 2 of those cases as CVST cases, and that has been our main focus. So therefore there is a bit of a difference between the numbers that are being used, but like I highlighted, the numbers are quite difficult, but we reviewed all the cases that were reported and brought to our attention in the different member states.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.